Hi, everyone. Well, we are back, Babula and I, with you again to do another episode of Astrology Now. This will be our last one before Christmas, I believe. So hence the Christmas baubles, Christmas dress, Christmas earrings. I have to point this out to people, you see, otherwise I won't notice. So anyway, that's lots of sharing information, which is obvious because we've got a full moon in Gemini, and Gemini loves to impart information.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's coming up. And I can say that I've certainly felt the effects of that recently because I've been completely scattered to the wind and my mind's all over the place, and I happen to have a moon in Gemini. So yeah, it's really affecting me. So why don't you share with us, Babula, how it's going to affect us, other people, in so many different ways.
Hey, so yes, lots to say about everything that's happening from now to the for the rest of December. But looking at that full moon on the 19th, which, by the way, on the same day, Venus turns retrograde. So we'll come back to that because that's a very important story. But yes, when the moon is full in the sign of Gemini opposite the sun in Sagittarius, yes, these two signs are mutable signs. So the mutable signs are Gemini, Sagittarius, Pisces, Virgo. And these are signs that have an energy of movement, change, variety, stimulation. People who have a lot of mutable energy in their birth chart have a low boredom threshold. They're their mind and their mental processes move very, very fast and in many different directions, often all at once. So it's and it can be experienced as being scattered, especially from other people. You know, other people are like, God, you're so scattered, you're all over the place. But you're experiencing that right now. So the full moon in Gemini. And also, I think it's worth noting that the nodes of the moon, north and south nodes, the dragon's head and dragon's tail, have been in Gemini and Sagittarius for the last 18 months. And they're actually now at the final stage. There's literally only 4 weeks to go before they change sign. Yeah. So that, you know, always when a planet or something like the nodes is coming to the end of a process in that sign, somehow the energy seems to really heighten and intensify.
Yeah. And will people feel a quick shift, or
when they change sign?
Yeah,
I think so. I think they will. And we'll see it in the world around us in terms of things happening in the world and what's going on in our own, you know, always it's what's going on in the world and the collective field and what we're experiencing in our own personal realities as well. So yeah, I think we will. It's the 19th of January that the nodes leave Gemini, Sagittarius and go into Taurus and Scorpio, which is a very different energy to Gemini, Sag.
Yeah.
But yeah, this Gemini moon, that Gemini energy, very, very heightened. The busy mind, busy activity, lots of activities, just lots going on. And yeah, and it can feel like it's difficult to actually focus, you know, and apply yourself to one particular thing and just deal with that, because we're being pulled by external circumstances. It's like a little child is like, you know, mummy, why, you know, constantly. It can be, you know, lots of disruptions and interruptions with phone calls and messages and changes of plan, and it can get very scattered and feel very ungrounded.
Yeah, and it's quite draining too, that sort of experience.
It can be draining.
Yeah.
It can be draining, you know, and just when you think you're getting a bit of focus, something happens or a communication comes in and you have to drop everything and deal with that, you know. It's yeah.
The interesting thing with this Gemini energy for me, though, is that you know, I think, oh well, I'll focus on this, and I can't focus, so I'll change to something else, and then I'll feel pulled to look at something else, and that's that Sagittarian energy as well, isn't it? It's like having many fingers in many pies to start with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which I have, and with Sun in Sag, and then the moon in Gemini as well, that full moon. It's just like, you know, leaves in the wind, just blowing all around. Can't do anything, can't focus on it, can't stay focused on anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, some people actually thrive on that. I mean, I've got a fair bit of mutable energy in me too. And I notice sometimes, like I've just been moving house and it's been mega. And so there are certain times I totally focus on a particular task. But I've also learned about me that I often do well when I deal with this over here and I keep moving and then I'm dealing with this and it all eventually gets done. But it's not always just one direct path to getting that done,
Yeah.
And I think the mutable signs tend to operate like that naturally. They're just not wired up to just stay on one track.
No.
Like you said you do have your fingers in many different pies.
Yeah. And ordinarily I achieve it all, like you're saying.
Exactly.
But at the moment, that Gemini energy is just blowing my mind.
Yes, that's right.
So yesterday I just said, no, I'll just give up. I'll just go watch a movie or something.
That's right. And just literally give your brain a rest for it.
Yeah. I hope that doesn't happen till the 19th of January because I've actually got to start work again in the new year.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and remember, we were just touching on this earlier, Mars is here. Mars has now gone into Sagittarius. So it's been sitting there right with that South Node in Sag opposite the North Node in Gemini. And so Mars brings tremendous energy to anything that it's touching, it energizes, stimulates, activates it in a really dynamic kind of a way. So that's really adding, and it's quite a hot energy, Mars. So it's adding a lot of heat to this mutable energy. And I've noticed over the years that when Mars is in a mutable sign, particularly Sag and Gemini, we're just very busy, busy bees, on the move, on the go. Yeah.
Well, hopefully I'll get there.
One way or another, yes.
At the moment, it's just like all over the place, and it's not achieving anything. And I like to achieve things, so.
Yeah, sure. And I think, I wonder too, as you say that, we're coming to the end of a huge year. And I think on some level, most of us are feeling a degree of just like exhausted, a bit burnt out. It's been such a massive year.
Yes. And I don't know why, but I started studying this year. So, but anyway, on top of everything else.
Right, why not take on more? That's right.
Not. I think maybe that was just the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, probably. And if that if that's finished now, maybe I think, pardon me, I think sometimes we just need you just need time out, perhaps.
Break, yeah.
Need a break. Yeah. So this so a couple of things more about this full moon. Well, one of them is that it's squared by Neptune.
Yeah.
So, that's absolutely adding to that sense of, and even in the build-up before the actual full moon and by the way, it's around 2:30 p.m. on the 19th in Brisbane time. So it's exactly in the afternoon. But the 2 days prior, of course, the moon's already in Gemini, and it makes that square to Neptune. So that's a good sort of recommendation there is just kind of give up on trying to get too focused with that one.
How long does that square last?
Oh, only for a couple of days, really. But, the sun has been in that square to Neptune for about a week, and the moon will be in the square for just a day or two around the full moon, on the full moon, really. So one more thing about this full moon, which is super interesting, is that it's at 27 degrees of Gemini. So the sun is 27 of Sagittarius. Now that happens to be a very interesting degree, 27 of Sagittarius. It's the galactic center. So when we're looking at our galaxy, the Milky Way from Earth, its center, looking through the lens of the zodiac that we use, is currently at 27 degrees of Sagittarius, and it moves incredibly slowly. So it's there. So this full moon is actually activating that galactic center, and there's lots of different, discussions and ideas in esoteric circles, astrology circles about what that actually means. And ancient cultures have spoken of this. The Mayans had quite a lot of information and ideas about what the galactic center, and they say that it's the point out of which the universe births stars and galaxies and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a black hole at the center of our galaxy. So it's a very powerful, potent point, actually.
I'm just thinking about cosmic feng shui. You know,
beautiful. I love that cosmic feng shui. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a potent degree.
Yes, changing energy and drawing things in, or maybe clearing.
That's right. Yeah. Clearing things out, new possibilities, emptying things out. That's right. And of course, every full moon is the peak of a cycle. And this cycle, of course, began 2 weeks ago at the new moon eclipse. So we're also coming out of a very powerful eclipse season. Well, we're still in it in a way, but we're sort of through the peak of it. But this full moon is the culmination of the solar eclipse that occurred 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And there's a lot happening in December. So yeah, I think it's fine for us to feel a bit. And I've just had this mega house move. So yeah, I think it's reasonable that we're all feeling a bit flattened.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, I don't think there'll be too many people who aren't feeling a bit flattened.
Mind you, I was out at the shops yesterday, and a lot of people, not yesterday, recently, came a couple of days ago, and people were buzzing. But it was a different sort of energy. It was it's the end of the year energy. It's I'm happy that, this year is gone, and let's hope next year's good energy. That sort of, it was hopeful,
yes,
and happy.
Yes, it's like that meme that says, I'm staying up on Christmas Eve to make sure this old year actually departs.
Yes, shut behind you as you leave. Thank you very much.
That's right.
Another year like that. Oh gosh. Anyway, we'll get into 2022 as we progress.
That's right. And look, one more little interesting point about this full moon is that the moon will be what we call, I like to call it out of bounds. Out of bounds. And it just means that when a planet is out of bounds, which they are at different times, it's gone out beyond the 23 degrees that the sun only reaches 23 degrees north and south of the equator. That's our Tropic of Capricorn, Tropic of Cancer. But sometimes planets, they kind of go a bit renegade and they go, I'm out of here. I'm going to be cheeky and cross that borderline, and I'm going to go out of bounds. It's a sort of I like to think of it as a kind of rebellious act, rebellious statement. I'm stepping outside of the bounds of what's considered okay and acceptable. And so sometimes a certain planet is out of bounds or and so it can behave in ways that are a bit maverick and a bit unpredictable. And it's Gemini, and of course Gemini is always about communications and connections, and it can be fun for people who are wanting to socialize, although it's an interesting time.
Yeah,
that's going to become limited for certain sectors of society, certainly in Queensland.
Yeah, I'm also, Gemini can be quite changeable and fickle. It's the messenger that likes to pass on information too.
That's right.
But I think I've noticed with people sometimes that I've dealt with some Gemini people, and they're very quick to, like, they can fly across people, right? How can I say that?
Like skimming across?
Yeah. A bit like the dragonfly on the lily pads on the pond, the boom, 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 boom. Possibly not always getting everything right either.
And moving quickly.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, fleet of foot, Hermes, Mercury, the ruler.
Yeah.
That god who's always depicted as being like a very slender youth with wings on his feet and wings on his helmet. He doesn't stick around.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I also think I'm just looking around something here. I'm not going to let people know. I'm going to tell them anyway, but this little contraption in front of me trying to get the camera at the right height. So I have to look around it to see things.
Okay, yeah.
But I was reading somewhere, someone described Gemini as the silver-tongued hustler. Or
It can be. That's right.
be, yeah.
Absolutely.
And I just felt like, wow, I'm seeing so much of that go on the world stage at the moment.
Have we what? The North Node's been in Gemini for 18 months.
Yeah.
Silver-tongued hustlers. They've been in our face.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Something to keep in mind too.
Yes, it is. And the other thing about these nodes in Gemini Sag is that we've all experienced in these last 18 months a lot of restrictions and constraints on our movements, because these are two signs that are all about movement. Sagittarius wants the freedom to just jump in a car and take off anywhere.
Yeah.
Straight through borders, which normally we can in this country. You don't even notice the border.
No.
Do you? You drive from Queensland, you go, oh, was that the border I just passed? Don't even notice.
Exactly.
And now you notice.
Yeah.
And Sag. So Gemini is the zapping around our local community environment, commuting here, there, and everywhere. Those busy days, Gemini days we have where we're in the car and off here and going there. And Sag is the more big, longer journeys, the trips overseas, the destinations, and so on. So that's been a big feature of the last 18 months. Nodes change in, what did I say, the 19th of January, and they go into Taurus, Scorpio. The theme is going to noticeably shift. And the issue of money and finances is going to really become much more front and center. It's been going on in the background for those who've been paying attention, but I think it's going to really start to have an impact when those nodes move into North Node in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio, and then for the rest of pretty much all of 22 and the first half of 23, that will become a really major issue and theme for the world and for the peoples of the world. So I would just suggest to people that they consider any arrangements they need to make to secure their finances, to really look at this, to look at options. Of course, there's the issue of many people losing their jobs right now as we speak.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And coming up into the new year, and what are they going to do financially? These are really big issues, and it's going to become very evident, and very come more to the fore.
Yeah, yeah. And Taurus is also about food. Let's remember that.
Yes.
Yeah. So growing food, buying food, eating food, the availability.
Agriculture, supplies, yes.
Yeah, that's all. Well, we've had that information about the possibility of, or probability of, trucks not being able to do.
That's right.
Can't have the fuel to get there. And
that's right.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out.
That's right. And Taurus, I've known a lot of Taurians in my life. My family has a lot of Taurus energy. I didn't get that, kind of unfortunately in a way, but I many Taurans are very hands-on, practical people. No food, no problem. I'll dig up my backyard and I'll grow my own. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Like a very hands-on, practical. And I think in this modern world, I think for a couple of generations, we've lost touch with that very basic reality of where our food comes from.
Yes.
And I think we're going to be getting some real lessons about that.
Yeah. And
what steps we need to take to provide for ourselves.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you think there could be, again, another influx, but in a different way, of people starting to, growing food in their own backyard, having their veggie garden? Because we had that in 2020, you couldn't get seedlings or seeds anywhere.
That's right.
I actually sent for seeds through the internet because I couldn't get any.
Yes.
Ordered them. And ever since then, we've had the last couple of years had a nice veggie garden.
That's right.
And utilising that quite a bit. So, but I'm, of course, in Australia now it's summer, it's hard to grow anything.
Yes, it is.
As the months move on, after about April or March next year, people will be able to start growing things again. And I was wondering if there'll be that move again towards people.
I think so. And there are people, years ago there used to be the preppers movement and everyone laughed at them. But, it might become somewhat of a reality. People have been learning how to preserve food, just like our mothers. I grew up,
Yep.
my mother used to preserve food, those preserving jars would all be lined up. My grandmothers did that. I, as a child, I had many grandmothers. I was very lucky. This was normal to them.
Yeah.
Grew up seeing that with my own eyes, walking through their vegetable gardens, collecting the eggs from the chickens. We've become so separated from that reality.
Yes.
And I think it's a good thing if we're made to come to terms with that very basic aspect of life, Yep. Yep. So these are, we're already jumping ahead into next year, but I just think it was worth kind of bringing up that issue about the North and South nodes. And of course, as we said last time, the eclipses all next year will be across the Taurus Scorpio theme. So they'll be highlighting this issue as well. Okay, so the other big thing, of course, is Venus. Lovely Venus, who is the ruler of Taurus, of course, and the ruler of Libra. And feminine principle, she's in Capricorn.
Yeah.
So she moved into Capricorn. I've made a few notes because it's a few dates I just want to throw out there for people who might be interested. She moved into Capricorn on the 5th of November. She'd normally move through a sign 3 to 4 weeks, but she's going to be in Capricorn now until the 6th of March. But that's a good 4 months because she's coming up to a retrograde phase. So on the full moon, the date of the full moon on the 19th, she actually is stationary and she turns retrograde. So she got to 26 degrees of Capricorn and then she'll turn and move back to about 11 for about 6 weeks. But this happens every 20 months. Venus goes retrograde. These retrograde phases form what we call the 5-pointed Venus star or the Venus pentagram. That it's a pattern that occurs every 8 years. It's a whole story into itself. But what's so important about this particular Venus retrograde in Capricorn is that she turns retrograde almost exactly conjunct Pluto.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I wonder how that's going to play out.
Very interesting. That's powerful. And so the whole theme of this 6-week Venus retrograde carries with it the energy of Pluto, because that's where she was when she stationed. It's like she got right up to him and said, okay, are you ready, Pluto? Let's do this. Now, what's interesting is that Pluto, of course, we often refer to as the Lord of the underworld.
Yeah.
When Venus goes retrograde, in mythology, it is said the goddess is now journeying into the underworld. So this is a very deep Venus retrograde phase we're coming into now. And there'll be a period during those 6 weeks when she will literally disappear from the night sky. She's currently the evening star. She will literally, as she gets closer to the sun, she will disappear with the sun below the horizon in the western sky in the evening, and we won't see Venus in the night sky at all. She's normally our brightest star. And then eventually, some weeks later, when she reappears, crossing the pathway with the sun, she's going to come up in the morning sky as the morning star. And in the meantime, in the underworld, with the sun and actually with Pluto, she goes through this tremendous transformation, deep transformation. So this is a very important, for a lot of reasons, Venus retrograde, because of everything that's happening in the world. We know how important the Venus-Saturn, the Pluto-Saturn conjunction was in 2020 that really set this whole story off. And this Venus retrograde with Pluto is just bringing more energy to that story as well. And individually as well, like I think because on the 12th of December, Venus made her first conjunction with Pluto before she even turned retrograde, people will already be noticing their relationships have taken on a kind of intensity, because she's the relationship planet.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there's a tremendous seriousness, Capricorn, intensity, Pluto, to do with love, relationship, partnership. Venus is feminine, so that would include anything to do with female people. This can be our girlfriends, our partners, our lovers, spouses, female children, daughters, sisters, friends. It's the feminine principle, the heart. Relationships are going to go through a deep sort of questioning, transformation process. And when Venus goes retrograde every 20 months, that is quite often a time when some relationships which have been struggling, they just don't make it. They don't make it through because its time has come.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's what you're saying with the Venus retrograde conjuncting Pluto. Because Pluto's birth, death, rebirth, transformation, power.
That's right.
Well, yeah, I think we should not forget that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, so people could expect, like you were saying, that things to do around the feminine principle too. What do you think, Babula, around that as well?
Yes, absolutely. Like I can often think of Venus as the goddess, as an archetypal energy. She is the goddess, and all cultures have many different aspects of the goddess. They might have many goddesses in their understanding, and she has many different faces. When she's in Capricorn, there's a certain seriousness. It's also, there's an authority here. There's people with Venus in Capricorn. This is more of a serious Venus. And in relationship, when Venus is in Capricorn, the person is seeking commitment, responsibility, like to be real, to be absolutely committed. It's not interested in just a relationship that's for fun. It's this is serious to me. And so I think lots of issues around power in relationships, authority, what is real, what's not real. Any strong combination of Venus and Pluto, and anyone who has a Venus-Pluto, like a conjunction, square, opposition in the birth chart, I have Venus opposite Pluto. So I'm speaking from personal experience. It really puts relationship under the microscope, and there's a lot of intensity to it, and it's got a kind of all or nothing quality to it.
Yeah. So that I can understand that. I'm just wondering how, how for some people who might be watching this, who are aware that they've got that in that strange, mysterious 12th house, how does that play out?
In the 12th?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, things are more hidden in the 12th house. They're more operating internally and behind the scenes. And when we have planets in the 12th, they're not really very visible to others. They're known internally, more on a deep soul level. And, in the old traditional astrology books, you'd see phrases like the 12th house was the house of self-undoing, where we might be driven by unconscious motivations or urges where we do something, we go, I don't even know why I did that. So it's where we're operating at a much deeper, more unconscious level often. But spiritually, the 12th house can be very profound if we're willing to go in. That's the process with the 12th. It's much more internal. We have to go in and become conscious of or endeavor to become conscious of what's unconscious and what's driving our behaviors unconsciously that might be causing difficulty in our life,
Yeah, well, I just asked that because just to demonstrate for people that it's not necessarily just about relationships with
that's right
close in our lives. It's our relationship to ourselves.
That's right.
Yeah.
And depending on where we have Venus in our own, what house our Venus is in, and also what house Capricorn is in. So this Pluto-Venus conjunction, retrograde, what house is that in your own chart, And so the thing about the whole process of this retrograde, in fact, it's not just the 6 weeks that she's retrograde, the whole time she's in Capricorn for these 4 months, she's making 3 conjunctions with Pluto. And out on the other side of it, we'll look back come March, and we'll look back and see, wow, I did a lot of work around relationships, and whatever, and it could be many relationships in our lives, and a lot will have been processed and hopefully purified, clarified, resolved, transformed for the better, and we come out more clear and strong in ourselves and in our relationships, particularly key, important relationships.
Yeah. So just to make it clear, this is about relationships with people.
Yes.
It's about relationships with projects or something like that. It's actually about the people, isn't it?
Well, primarily, that's a really great point, because it's in Capricorn. This can also apply to us, our work and our sense of purpose and mission. That big question, well, why am I here and what's my purpose and mission in this lifetime? Capricorn's got a lot to do with that. So it can include, Venus is also a money planet, Cheryl's Taurus. So it might be, for some, this can include making important financial decisions related to your work, your job, your profession, your business. That's going on for a lot of people.
Yeah, the way you make money in the world.
That's right. And how you manage your money. These are Capricorn themes. So that's right. That's a really great point. It isn't only relationship.
Yeah, and it's also about government too, isn't it?
It certainly is.
Yeah, Capricorn. So it's a relationship with our government.
Exactly. And, one of the themes of Pluto is the theme of abuse and the misuse of power. Is that relationship abusive? Well, yeah.
Well, that's interesting. So we might see a little bit of that.
I think so.
I don't want to incite anything.
No, that's
a little bit over the next few months.
Yeah. Yes. And, we know here in Australia, there's talk, we're due for an election at some point in the year, so we'll see what unfolds with all of that. But it's fascinating that on this Gemini full moon, on the same day, Venus actually turns retrograde. And I've said many times, when a planet's changing direction, that day or two or three, that energy is very strong. It's very, and of course, always, when Venus goes retrograde, she's going to bring up relationship issues from the past. We get to look a bit deeper at maybe some unconscious patterning around relationship issues. It might be suddenly we find ourselves going, I thought I dealt with that, and here it is again. Here I am again. Great time to maybe book a session with your favorite therapist or healer. And it actually is, because the time is ripe to do that deeper investigation, to clear, to heal, to want, and we only do that if we actually want to know and want to do it.
Yeah, have a willingness
to do that, and to go into perhaps some deep, maybe uncomfortable territory.
Yes, I think it's really important to make that, to have that willingness, and to make that space in our mind and in our heart.
That's right.
Actually, to place things that we learned, the insights that we get from doing that.
That's right. It's really important, so we don't just get stuck and just keep repeating same old endlessly.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's big. So then the following day, on the 20th, a lot happening between now and the end of the year. Chiron turns direct.
Yes, I'm looking at my little list I've got on the.
Oh, you've got them there. Great.
In the past, but I'm adding ones that I haven't got yet, but I've got that one. Go on.
Chiron's been retrograde for a good 5 months or so in Aries, moving very slowly through Aries, 9 years in Aries, and stations at 8 degrees, and will turn direct again. Of course, Chiron's about wounding and healing and awakening. We could spend half an hour just talking about Chiron and Aries. It's a theme in the collective and the personal for these 9 years. Been here for a couple of years now. And, lots of themes and issues around the masculine principle, conflict, battles, war, assertion, courage. I think there's a lot about courage that, we're all being called to find more courage than perhaps we realized we had.
Yes.
During these times. And then on the 22nd, another important event takes place, the summer solstice.
Yes.
For those of us in the Southern Hemisphere. So that's always every year around the 20th, 21st, 22nd, when the sun leaves Sagittarius and enters the sign of Capricorn. So the 4 cardinal signs, when the sun gets to 0 degrees of those 4 cardinal signs on that cardinal cross, we have the solstices and the equinoxes, and they're important turning points. They're quite powerful dates, actually. They're, doorways, portals. Often they mark times of, endings, a new 3-month cycle beginning until the equinox that will occur when the sun goes into Aries.
Yeah.
But that's an important date. And then on the 24th, Christmas Eve, we have the final Saturn-Uranus square, which has been the big theme, really, of 2021.
Yeah.
So
restrictions, loss of freedoms. There's been so much, actually. It's like every time we've had one of those, like, what was the first one? Was that January or February?
Yeah, earlier in the year. I forget the exact timing, but January or February. And then the middle one was
June, July,
yes.
And now there's one in December. And looking back over the last 2 years, every 6 months, because there was 3 triggers last year too. So every 6 months you see a theme.
That's right.
Of, the first 6 months last year was what's happening. We don't know what's happening. We don't understand what's going to happen. What's the future all about? Are we all going to die? And then the next, actually it must have been, the next 6 months, it was all about, okay, well, we've got to keep you all inside. We've got to restrict you. We've got to hold you back. We've got to stay safe, stay safe, be calm. We'll get through this. We're all in this together. And then when we shifted into this year, that trigger in December last year, it lost that sense of we're looking after you, to the government's looking after itself.
That's
basically.
right.
Yeah, and Big Pharma's looking after itself, and like a whole lot of other interests entered into the story. So you can see that those, and then in the middle of the year, it changed again with people saying, no, we've had enough, and fighting back and rallying. I mean, this last 6 months, we've had so many rallies and demonstrations.
And they just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger all over the world. And that's right. That's the Uranus pushback.
Yeah.
That's where pushing back hard against those forces of control and oppression. So it's been very tense.
Yes. So this next trigger is going to be more of that, but it will have a different theme again.
Definitely.
They keep changing, even though it's not about the same issues, really, the bigger issues. But yeah, will be another theme enter.
That's right. And if you hear the announcements, and I don't on a regular basis, but every now and then I'll catch it in the car. I'll be listening to something and the news will come on, and my impulse is to switch it off. But every now and then I go, no, I'm curious. What are they saying now? And so you start to notice the messaging, and you can see almost what's coming, because they'll just drop it in. Just drop it in as a little possibility, and you go, okay, that's the next piece of the story. And so there are indications that they're going to start tightening again. But what's interesting, when you get a series of 3 transits like this, usually the third one, something comes to some kind of conclusion or resolution or release or realization. It's a process of 3. The middle one's usually the toughest. That's when we're having our own transits. We might get 3 big transits of a particular thing throughout a year, and often the middle one's the hard grind one, and then at the end we're sort of, very often we've come to some realization and understanding about what that's all been about, and then we're moving on. But it will be, I think, that battleground, for want of a better word, between Saturn and Uranus is going to be very intense and strong. But I do feel that after it, we'll be in a bit of a new place. And I think there will have been a release, because if we were to consider that, because Uranus is out beyond Saturn in the sky, in our solar system. In a very simplistic way, we could say its energy is bigger and more powerful. And my way of viewing that is, again, a very simplistic way. The energy of Uranus will overpower Saturn. And the energy of Uranus represents the people. And the people are rising up, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Something has to give eventually.
Something will give, and more people just going, whoa, this is now getting crazy extreme.
Yeah. And more nonsensical decisions are being made, mismanagement,
bonkers. I mean, I've been, some people send me things, and sometimes I say, can you believe what this, whoever it was, just said? And I'll watch it and I go, I just burst out laughing because it's so ludicrous. I can only laugh.
Yeah. Yes, and it's like sane people trying to exist in an insane world at the moment.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So that's Christmas Eve. that's Christmas Eve, folks.
Merry Christmas, people.
And then on the 25th, Christmas Day, Venus will make her second conjunction to Pluto. So the first one was on the 12th of December. The second one, she will be retrograde conjunct Pluto at 25 of Capricorn. So, Christmas is a very interesting time. It can be a very joyful, warm, family time for people. It can be a wonderful time of celebration and coming together. For some, it's a very challenging, difficult time because some families are fraught with all sorts of difficult dynamics or people's circumstances. Sometimes there can be tremendous loneliness and isolation because Capricorn's not the most sociable of signs. And one of the wounds, we could say, in Capricorn, and all signs have them, can be a sort of loneliness and isolation that Capricorn can often feel, and depression. I'm just saying that because I just want to acknowledge that for some people, this Christmas could be difficult, and people are going through a lot of difficulties. But I think if we put a bit of awareness and consciousness and energy into reaching out and connecting with those who we really value and appreciate, and make a bit of effort to create something nice, over Christmas, that could be really well worth doing.
Yes.
Yeah. These are strange and challenging times. Then on the 29th, there is a change of energy as we move into the very end of the year because Jupiter moves into Pisces. And Jupiter loves being in Pisces. Jupiter is very pleased to be here. And Jupiter is a planet of tremendous expansion, and Pisces, we could say, knows no boundaries. It is boundaryless, it's vast. And this to me feels like an energy that could bring a great sense of release and relief. And not that I'm saying all the issues and problems will be instantly resolved, not at all, but I think it's an invitation at the end of the year to spend those last few days of the year post-Christmas to just relax, to just do very little, have a rest. It's been a big year.
Yes.
Get near water if that's available to you. If not, just go, you know what, for the next few days, I'm not doing anything, or I'm doing as little as possible, or I'm just going to do what makes me feel happy, lie on the couch and listen to your favorite music, or, just really let that Jupiter and Pisces energy just carry us for a few days, before the new year starts. That would be my suggestion.
I often get images when you're talking about these things. I've got this image of, I'm very visual. I've got this image of, Jupiter knocking on Pisces doors, and Pisces says, who is it? He says, Jupiter. Oh, come on in, open the door, swings it open, come on in, friend, come on in. And while you're here, have a swim in the pool,
Exactly. And here's the drinks, there's the bar.
Yes.
Pisces likes a drink, let's face it.
Yes.
That's right, and if you have friends around, make it really relaxed. Easy. so that everyone's just able to sit around with a drink and relax, no pressure. It's been a stressful year. So yeah, exactly. And I get images of somebody on one of those lilos just
Yes.
lying in the pool, just or on a lake, you
Yeah.
know, just lying there.
Yeah.
And just letting go and letting the water hold you. It can be for many a time of real spiritual release. You know, for some it would be a beautiful time those last few days to meditate, to do whatever is a favorite spiritual practice, you know, to make that a bit of a focus for those last few days. Not a bad idea given the year we've had, you know, to prepare the way for the new year.
Oh, you always have to, you have to take the pressure off to be able to you know, push that refresh button. Otherwise, you just start the new year with
Absolutely.
And imagine where you'll be after a while with that. So yeah.
Absolutely. And then Jupiter will be in Pisces for about the first 4 months of the year. Then for the middle of part, it'll go into Aries, and then at the end of the year, he'll be back in Pisces. So it's here for a time, but I really like that idea of those last 3 days of the year, you know, just let the year go and maybe reflect a bit, you know, on what's happened and what we've learned and seen and understood and so on, you know.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, you know, like I think because I've just been looking at different things, reading different stories, looking at some astrology as well, and just you know, I think that the first few months of the year next year might blow us away a bit. I sort of see that Jupiter in Pisces is sort of like it offsets it.
It does. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll need it.
Yeah. And, you know, spiritually, it's one of the nicest placements, the most, you know, it's very profound and offers a wonderful opportunity for real spiritual expansion, you know, whatever that means for people. You know, we use these words, what do they even mean? But for some real connection to soul, to spirit, to God, to whatever is our understanding or language for that which isn't difficult to name or even speak to, you know, like if in the first few months of the year with whatever else is going on, if we can find ways or avenues to really strengthen or grow our faith, our trust, our belief in life itself, you know, in the great mysteries of life, in whatever way is real for us, you know, I think that's going to be a really helpful and important theme.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
What else have we got now before we and then the new moon will be on the 3rd of January. So that will complete this current lunar cycle, which is peaking with the full moon on the 19th. The new moon will be at 12 degrees of Capricorn.
That's a bit hard.
What's that?
It's a bit hard, a bit harsh.
Yes. Well, you know, it's interesting, isn't it, that, you know, in the lead up to Christmas, we always have the sun in Sagittarius.
Yeah.
And then at the solstice point, around that 20th, 21st, 22nd, the sun, just before Christmas, the sun actually goes into Capricorn.
Yes, it's like, okay, snap out of it.
That's right. You had your fun.
It's 2022. Get on with it.
That's right. And it's interesting, isn't it, that people often are moved to make New Year's resolutions, or they're planning particularly if they run a business or work for themselves, they might be thinking about, okay, the next year, let's kind of get focused and get a bit organized. You know, that Capricorn energy starts to kick in.
Well, that's going to work for me because I'm actually launching my Body Light Center as a business in January, 1/1. And so people can, if you're listening and you need a bit of help with those resolutions, I'll be offering virtual hypnotherapy. So it'll be online. You can do it from the comfort of your own home. Fantastic. But I'll also be restarting the Afterlife group and women's circles, and there was something else. But anyway, they can jump onto the website, bodylightcenter.com, and have a look at the services that I offer and the classes that'll be available. And just thinking about that with the meditation, I'll also be offering a meditation class too. So There'll be lots on offer.
That's absolutely wonderful, you know, and as you know, but people listening probably don't, I've just moved into a new house with my daughter. We both of us have packed up our houses that we were separately in, her with her 2 little children, and we have, but it's been a huge week. We have both packed up those 2 houses and moved into one, and this new place actually has a big workshop space. So I'll be spending most of January continuing to unpack, and, you know, we've got lots of stuff to get rid of and sell because we've literally merged 2 households into one.
Mm.
And at the moment, that workshop space, which is a wonderful big room, is just full of boxes and bits of furniture that we've still got to sort out and figure what to do with. So that'll be my work project for most of January, you know, very Capricorn.
Yes.
Yes. And after that, I'll be ready to, you know, create new programs and so on. So yeah, it's that Capricorn energy gets us focused again on, you know, what's next.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, and I was just enjoying that. What was it? That Jupiter and Pisces.
That's right.
Cool. And then Capricorn snaps me out of it.
That's right. Back to reality. That's right. Back to crack on. Let's get on with it. I know. No. That's coming. We're not there yet.
Feet on planet Earth, please.
Yes, right. That's right. Back to the mission. Yes, but let's take a break from the mission for a while.
We are. We're going to.
That's right.
Then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Anything else you want to add?
Let me see. Well, Venus goes direct again right at the end of January on the 29th of January. So yeah, so she's in. So just, I think that's a really important piece. From now through to the end of January, Venus is retrograde. And it's not all challenging. Sometimes really fantastic things can happen. But, you know, in Capricorn, we're going to be making some serious decisions and choices about relationships and finances and money and business and so on. And clear old stuff. That's the important thing. You know, clear old locked heart energy, relationship themes, you know, looking deeply at people that into our relationships with people we love and care about. And maybe some relationships, as I said, will come to a close, you know, for whatever reason. And others may be absolutely strengthened and really more deeply committed.
Yeah. And I just wanted to say to people that if they can't see clearly about some things, is stop. Take a breath and just stand back a bit. And when you stand back, you can rise above, you know, the forest you can't see the forest for the trees, that sort of idea. Stop and disconnect emotionally if you can from things and give yourself a little bit of time out to gain that different perspective, to rise above things, to get a bigger view of everything that's going on, because we're still here every day. We're still breathing every day. You know, we're getting on with it. We are dealing with a lot of emotional stuff, personal stuff in our lives and stuff that's in the world that's going on, that's affecting people in so many different ways. But just stop and take that breath and then go, because you can't resolve situations or problems from the same place that you're at, can you?
That's right. And when we're just kind of right inside it, you know, that's right. Step back, breathe. For me, sometimes I literally have to get up, walk out of the room, go outside. That really is my way of doing it. I just literally go outside, under the sky, take some breaths, look at the trees, hear the birds, expand, open up. You know, makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I do that too. I go out and check my veggies, see how much they've got for today, see who's eaten what before I got to it.
Yes.
Just getting out in that natural environment just really blows the mind.
And I've noticed that this place I've moved to, there's this amazing garden. It's like a tropical jungle garden. I'm so happy. I actually have a garden finally.
Yeah.
And so even though there's still lots to do inside, I've actually already started pruning things, and just, I love to be out in the garden. And that's going to be a really, really helpful thing for me, I know, because I spend a lot of time at a desk on a computer.
Yeah.
And we all need balance, you know, and I'm so grateful to have this. And overgrown veggie patch out there, I'll be getting into that as well. And it's just so good for body and soul to have that kind of balance.
And actually, just while we're on that point, the reason why, one of the reasons why it's so good to get out of in nature, it's not just about, the different oxygen intake and all that sort of thing and getting your feet on the ground. It's also about the color, because nature is often green.
That's
and
right.
green represents the heart chakra.
Yes.
And in Aura-Soma color psychology, let's call it that, or any color psychology, green, it's that green color gives you a panoramic view. So it allows you to rise up, get that 360-degree view of what's going on around you, so that you can then see to the truth at the heart of matters, and that's the only way that you can actually get that, is just by stop and go, okay.
That's true, isn't it? When we're in nature, we do breathe, we do expand, we do open up. And as you were saying that about Aura-Soma, I did that years ago, and I could, as you were speaking, I could smell the green pomander. And as I was smelling it, I could feel that, because that's the effect that it has when you breathe it in. It's just, everything opens and expands, and you feel like your lungs are taking in more oxygen and more energy and life and healing. It's a powerful healing color, isn't it?
Yeah, and a lot of people have been feeling restrictions in many different ways this year. It has an effect on our heart. It's a muscle, remember, so it tightens. And if we are still feeling that restriction constantly, our heart is tightening, and that's no good for our health. So, even just wearing something green, putting a green scarf on, having green things to look at, pull up a green screensaver of nature or whatever, that's lovely. And you see it all the time, and that just releases that tension.
Yes. And as you're saying that, you're talking about the green, many people have green Christmas trees in the house, even if they're plastic. It's the green tree, isn't it?
Yeah.
The green and red of Christmas. Yeah,
go have a drink around your Christmas tree.
That's right.
Oh, well, it's been a pleasure as usual.
It has, Cheryl, me too.
And we just want to say to everyone, thanks for sticking with us through the year and following the star trails with us as we move into the age of Aquarius. And we will be back next year with the next, new moon in Capricorn.
Yes.
But until then, we both wish you a wonderful Christmas. If you celebrate Christmas, have a wonderful Christmas. If you don't, have a wonderful holiday season, because hopefully you'll get some holidays at this time too.
Yeah.
And have a wonderful new year, however you celebrate that.
Right.
And stay safe, and many blessings on all of you. And we will see you in 2022.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye for now.